Hello, welcome back to another episode of Girls on Deck. I'm Kayla Burge.
And I'm Hannah Russo. Today we're here with Kellie Campbell to recap the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' 31-9 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs.
They are the first team to not only play at home in the Super Bowl, but to win at home in the Super Bowl. So it's pretty exciting, especially if you're a Tampa Bay fan. Hannah and I were just talking before this about how absolutely insane Tampa was after, COVID just completely went away because the streets were flooded and it was a disaster. But one thing I wanted to point out before we get into this is that Hannah and I predicted the color of the Gatorade that would be poured on the winning coach. So we both said blue. Yeah, we just both had that little inkling that it was going to be blue. But we're here with Kellie Campbell. She's the first time on Girls on Deck, and we're so excited to have her. So, Kellie, I want to know what your thoughts on the Super Bowl were overall.
Hey guys, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to finally be on an episode. But honestly, pretty boring Super Bowl. Not at all what I would have expected. I really thought Kansas would have come in swinging. And to just see Tampa completely steamroll them the entire game, I think everybody was shocked. I truly feel bad for the people that had a ton of money on Kansas and Patrick Mahomes, but you, like everyone says, you cannot bet against Tom Brady when it comes to playoffs, when it comes to the Super Bowl, and he just proved again that you really cannot bet against him when it comes to these big games. So I'm glad I didn't put any money on that game, but I'm just excited for Tampa, excited for the city. I feel like they needed that, so good for them, but not at all in the slightest what I was expecting out of that game.
No, I was so shocked. I expected it to be a close game. I wanted the Bucs to win, Florida representation. But
Right.
I was like, I really thought it was going to be a closer game. And when it wasn't, I was actually genuinely surprised. And now Tom Brady, this will be his 7th Super Bowl victory. He alone has more Super Bowl wins than some franchises combined. It's absolutely insane. He is the greatest of all time. You can't argue with that. Again, I know we talked about last time about greatest athlete. That's debatable, but definitely the greatest quarterback of all time. It's just phenomenal that I believe he's 45, right?
40.
45 or whatever. He's in his 40s. So that is phenomenal. I could not imagine. I can barely run without tripping at the age of 20. So to be doing what he's doing in his 40s is absolutely phenomenal. But I want to know where you think the Chiefs went wrong.
Honestly, Patrick Mahomes he did not have a good night. He went 26 of 9. That's awful. That is horrible. He didn't have anyone blocking for him. He didn't have any receivers that really did anything for him. Not even his number one, Kelsey. He was barely showing out there. You really you can't show up to the Super Bowl after sweeping the playoffs, looking so good the regular season. You can't do that and then score 9 points in the Super Bowl. Everyone thought Mahomes was going to be on luck. Everyone thought the receivers would really be in the game. Honestly, I think Kansas might have underestimated Tampa a little bit. Maybe that's where they went wrong, seeing a lot of the smack talk in the game. But I still really can't even wrap my brain around it. It's so far from what I thought it would be. I thought we would be looking at a 1 to 3 point margin of victory, but geez, 20 plus points, I don't know.
I definitely agree with you. I thought we would be looking at a smaller margin of victory, and I thought Mahomes and his Chiefs were going to come out a lot stronger than they were, but Tom Brady was the underdog, and Tom Brady's never the underdog. He really proved that he's one of the best there is.
Right. I think he also thrives off of negative energy, and he was getting a whole lot of that from a lot of people. Yeah, so, I for the longest time, really didn't want to admit Tom Brady was the GOAT. He went to Michigan, so that just rubs me the wrong way. But after he has 7 Super Bowl rings, which is more than any franchise ever. It used to be the Steelers with 6 total in their and Tom himself has 7. So I can't sit here anymore and deny that he is not the greatest quarterback in the NFL to date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this Super Bowl kind of really set that. If you doubted him before, if you had your arguments, those kind of went out the window. just a phenomenal player. And I think at the end of the day, the Bucks clearly wanted him more. I think, like you said, the Chiefs went in there a little too cocky. They're the reigning champions. They probably thought, oh, this will be a little easy, and it wasn't. At the last quarter, you saw Patrick Mahomes like running around in circles trying to figure out where to throw it. And then he throw it, and receivers can't catch. Tyreek Hill wasn't catching it. It was not a game that I ever thought the Chiefs would play in the Super Bowl, and they just, at the end of the day, they played horribly. Like, to score 9 points in the Super Bowl as the Chiefs, who again dominated the playoffs, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I'd be pretty
extremely, especially when they won last year. That just not a good look.
No.
Yeah, especially since none of their points were touchdowns. It was all field goals and fourth downs because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense just held them from where they could make any conversions or make any passes. They kept pushing them back, and ultimately that's what won them the game.
Right. They really got to Patrick Mahomes. They really studied him well because a lot of people in the media, a lot of people were talking, saying Tampa Bay's defense, there's no way they're going to be able to contain Patrick Mahomes and his elite set of receivers. But they did exactly that. They tackled they got into the pocket and they made him scramble. He was in the pocket for so long trying to figure out where he was going to throw the ball to that he was making some pretty insane throws. I don't know if you saw where he was basically almost horizontal. But
yeah, I saw that one. Yes.
I was like, there's no reason that he should be put in a situation where he has to make a pass like that. So that's kind of on his line and his blockers and stuff like that. But
so
it was not the Chiefs I have been watching for the last 2 years. Let's just say that.
Absolutely not. And now that we've talked about what the Chiefs did wrong, what do you think that the Bucks did absolutely right?
I think they studied so much film because all the weaknesses everyone was saying they weren't going to be able to do, they completely capitalized on. They did exactly what they needed to do. I found myself shocked by how well the defense was playing. I think that's where they really stepped up. That's where they really made it matter, because Kansas is, even when they're having their bad games, they really usually normally come out the second half swinging, and they bring that back. They're able to score 20, 30 points in just a half to make it a competition again, which is what I was kind of expecting. Like, oh, they'll come back in the second half. Mm-hmm. But Tampa just kept hot on their heels. They weren't going to let them up just because they were up, and they stayed right on their neck. And at the end of the day, they got the ring, they got the trophy, and that's what they were there to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hannah, go.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I also think it was their offensive leaders like Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. They all helped contribute to plays because they have that veteran experience that a lot of the Bucs players don't have in the playoffs or just in a Super Bowl. So they were able to put trust in their teammates and have their teammates put their trust in them. So that way they could execute plays at the level that the Chiefs were able to execute plays last season.
Right. I think it definitely helped having that kind of bond that Gronk and Tom have. And then also you can throw AB into the mix, and he's had some past experience with them as well. So I think that definitely did help them, especially seeing that Rob Gronkowski, I'm pretty sure just in the first half alone, him and Tom threw 2 touchdowns to just Gronk. So definitely helps having that history, and you could see they're great together. So,
and I think it helps to, the energy that they bring to a team. They're these funny guys. Rob Gronkowski is such a character, and Tom Brady is such a team leader that he brought this team together, and I think that was really what benefited them. That's what made them. This is the Bucs' first appearance in a Super Bowl since 2002, so they were eager. This has been their time to make it. So I definitely think it was a really interesting game, much deserved. And now Tom Brady said he'll be back again at the age of, in the 40s, whatever. I have to verify what age he is.
I wish I could pretend to be shocked, but I'm not.
I know. You can't. I mean, come on. Tom Brady's not gonna go out until he's basically on a stretcher getting pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rob Gronkowski, I think it's so funny. He's like, I'm retiring, big retired life. Tom Brady's like, come back, let's win a Super Bowl. And they do.
Yeah. You never know. And you never know why Gronk retired, or if it was just he was tired of playing for New England or something like that. But I mean, if Tom Brady asks you to come out of retirement and play football with him, you do what Tom Brady says.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kellie, for talking Super Bowl with us. Can't wait for next season. Football season is always an exciting time. We hope to see you on the show again soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. And when we come back, we will be joined by Alex Funderburke to talk baseball.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
And we're back with Girls on Deck talking some MLB trades with Alex Funderburke. Alex, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Ready to talk some baseball with you guys.
Yes, I'm so excited as the season is approaching. It's supposed to be on time. Hopefully everything goes well. COVID doesn't take a turn for the worse. But the big news I want to talk about is Trevor Bauer. The 2020 National League Cy Young Award winner is going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. What do you think of this trade, Alex?
I mean, Trevor Bauer signing with the Dodgers was something I kind of saw coming. It was either the Dodgers or the Mets. I did not expect that price tag, though. 3 years for $102 million, making him the highest paid player ever on an annual average is something insane because he's never been that great. He's always been someone that is like a slightly above average pitcher. And then, of course, last year he was outstanding. But if you take away last year, he's kind of just an above average pitcher.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little bit risky. You know, the Dodgers are a team that can afford it. You know, they're a pretty big franchise, but yes, he is set to make $40 million in 2021 and $45 million in 2022. I mean, that is absolutely insane for anyone to make. So hopefully he's worth the money. You know, as a Dodgers fan, I really got to hope it works out. But a lot of people were arguing too that he may become the face of baseball as a whole now. Do you think that's something that is possible, or do you think it's just the hype from last season and it'll die down?
I think he might be the face of baseball off of the field. He has a pretty big YouTube channel, pretty big social media following, and what he's doing, he's growing the game. But on the field, I definitely wouldn't say he's the face of baseball. I mean, he's someone who is an above average pitcher. I would still put Mookie Betts as the face of even just the Dodgers, but guys like Fernando Tatis, Mike Trout, like all those guys, I'd put ahead of Bauer in terms of the face of the sport.
Absolutely, I agree.
And a lot of people are saying that as he joins the Dodgers pitching rotation, they're starting to have a star-studded pitcher rotation with Clayton Kershaw, David Price, and now Trevor Bauer. Do you think that'll help them become a World Series favorite, even higher than they now, and it will help them win another National League pennant?
For sure. I mean, you have Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer, Urias. That rotation is very deep. And what's going to help Trevor Bauer is he's not going to have to be the ace of that pitching staff. He can go in and be their number 3 starter and go against the other team's number 3 starters, right? So if he can just be he doesn't have to be the Cy Young winner. I don't think the Dodgers are expecting that from him. But if he can go out, be a solid number 3 starter for them, they'll be happy, and they will probably be on their way to another World Series title.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, he doesn't have to be the Cy Young winner because Clayton Kershaw has 3 and David Price has 1 from 2012. So he's going into a team that is experienced in pitching, experienced in everything. And now looking at the Dodgers as a whole, they just got rid of Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson. Justin Turner is up for grabs. What do you think how do you think that'll affect them? They have the pitching in order. Do you think the loss of Kike and Jock is going to affect them greatly, or they will still be a powerhouse even without them?
I think it'll hurt a little bit just because those guys were both pretty big role players, especially in the playoffs. But I mean, it's still the Dodgers. They still have Mookie Betts. They still have Bellinger. Like, they're still stacked. I would like to see them get Justin Turner back. I don't know if they have any more money to spend because they just gave Bauer $102 million. But if they can find the money to get Turner back, I think that'd be a good signing. But no, it's still the Dodgers. They're still stacked. They're an all-star team.
Yeah, I definitely think signing Turner back would be a definite benefit, just to have that he's always been someone that they can rely on in a time of pressure, a time when they need him. So I think having that back, they lost Kike, who was one of those for them, one of those people that when they needed a homer at the end, he could do that for them. So I would hope they sign him back, but if not, I definitely think they're going to figure out a way. They're a phenomenal franchise that always figures it out and always, whether they're winning the World Series like last year or just always making it to the end, they're consistent and they consistently know how to play the game.
That's what's cool about the Dodgers is they haven't won outside of last year since like the 80s, but they're always in the conversation. And I think it's cool that you can build a franchise to always be in that conversation, because outside of, like, not even the Yankees are that consistent, right? It's only the Dodgers who are always in that conversation. And it's something that I think every team should strive for.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've seen the Yankees in the past couple of years, they were kind of like, it was like Dodgers, Yankees, Dodgers, Yankees. And last year, the Yankees fell short a little earlier than expected. So now let's change to that team. What do you think the Yankees need to do going into this season?
As a Yankee fan, I want a lot, but no, if their pitching staff, the way they have it now, they signed Kluber, they have a lot of question marks on that pitching staff. But if Luis Severino can come back and be the Severino he was prior to his injury, if Domingo Germán can come back and be the Domingo Germán he was before his suspension, and Kluber can just be just half of what he was when he won 2 Cy Youngs, I think the Yankees are set up, because you have Garrett Cole, who's the second best pitcher in baseball. And, if everyone performs as they should, the Yankees will be in the World Series. But as always, with every Yankee season, it always comes down to injuries. It's always injuries. That's what stops them every time.
They perform as well as they can all season, but then those injuries bite them right at the end.
Yep. It's if Judge and Stanton can stay healthy, I don't see many teams that can beat the Yankees in the AL. The White Sox will be good. The Twins will be good. But can the Yankees stay healthy? That's the thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was nice to finally see Giancarlo Stanton be able to perform in a postseason last year. He'd been injured the year prior, and, a lot of people were like, is he worth the money? Is he just a big injury for the Yankees? And I think that if he can stay healthy, he's going to be an absolute asset to the Yankees. And I think they can get a lot further. I mean, they have the team around them and they always come up short. So I think it's, whether they're adding players or just fixing team dynamic and everything, I think they could be a contender this year.
For sure. But it always comes down to health with them. Go ahead. You're breaking up.
I was just saying how it's a little bit more of the team dynamic as well as it is health, because they have everyone there and they have amazing talent. They always have amazing talent. I mean, they're America's baseball team, as many like to refer to them as, but their health is what knocks them down every single year. They get as far as they can. They get to the ALCS. But then the important players, their important starters get hurt or they get sick, and then they're done.
Yeah, I mean, or you could look at last year in the ALDS against the Rays. They tried to get too cute. They had Devi Garcia start game 2, and they pulled him after the first inning because they didn't think, as a rookie, he could handle it. And it's like, he looked good in that first inning. You should have let him stay out there and pitch. And I think if the Yankees win game 2, they win that series, because they would have gone up 2-0 in a best-of-5 series, and you only need one more win. But they got cute, and it bit him in the butt.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting how you said, they pulled him a little too soon. I think that's something that we saw a lot last year in the postseason was these pitchers that were doing decently, but, managers would get scared and they pull them a little too soon. So I think that's something that, maybe they need to focus on relying a little more, having a little more faith. But I mean, that's a tough job. You got to know when to trust them and when to pull them out. I could not imagine having that much pressure.
As Johnny Jackson always says, your pitcher's dealing until he isn't.
Yes. And the wise words of Johnny Jackson. Now, there's a couple free agents left in MLB, one of them being Justin Turner. And I know we talked about this before. I think he should stay with the Dodgers. You think so? And I know, Hannah, I believe you agree as well, as he should stay with the Dodgers.
Yeah. He's a great asset to them, and he's very reliable. So if he goes somewhere else, I mean, yes, he's going to help them develop their team and be more of an asset on their roster. But with the Dodgers, he is definitely a force that adds to it already, to a team that is already a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely, yeah. And right now, he's the one that everyone's looking at the most, but there are some other free agents. Now, Alex, I want to know who the one that you're most excited to see where they go and where you think they will go.
I want to see where starting pitcher Jake Odorizzi ends up. He's been with the Twins last few years. He's a solid 2 or number 3 pitcher. And I think the Angels need pitching. So hopefully if the Angels are smart, they'll go out, they'll get pitching, because they need to surround Mike Trout with pitching. You have the bats there already. You have Rendon, you have Ohtani, you have the best baseball player in the world in Mike Trout. So get that man pitching so you can be a good baseball team. Because it seems like they always have the bats, but they can never pitch. So Angels, please go sign Jake Odorizzi.
Absolutely. I think the Angels have been fairly disappointing. When you have the best player in the MLB on your team, you cannot surround him with the team he needs. I mean, I feel for Mike Trout. This man is crying out for just a playoff contention at all, and they just have failed him time and time again. So yes, I would hope they get that starting pitching. They have Ohtani, and I think they need to just continue building around that.
Kayla, do you have a free agent that you're looking at that you're really excited for?
I'm looking at James Paxton, left-hand pitcher. I think the Mets are going to take him. I think they're looking to build their pitching rotation. They have DeGrom, Stroman, Peterson, and I think with the addition of James Paxton, they could just be a stronger team and maybe a contender, because there's always someone that gets a little close and then they come up very short, just because in the end of the day, it's a very big pitching duel in the MLB these days, and they just have not been able to stand up to the other teams.
I agree with you. I was also looking at Paxton, but I would say he's better fit for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are always one of the contenders in their league, and they just fall short every year of making their division series or putting up a record that is decent enough for other people to look at them as a true contender. So I feel like if Paxton were to go to Toronto, then he would help them with their franchise base and put them up as a real contender for this season.
Yeah.
One thing that'd be cool about Paxton to Toronto is Paxton's a Canadian. So he'd go back home, go to Toronto. But Paxton to the Mets is interesting, because I'm cool with Paxton going to the Mets because I'm a Yankee fan. I don't want Paxton on the Yankees. He was terrible last season. Get him away from the pinstripes. But if he goes to the Mets, it's just something about the Mets. They will always Met. Like, they will always find a way to beat themselves. So no matter how good the Mets roster looks, I refuse to believe in them.
I got faith in them. I think they're working on it. DeGrom needs it. And DeGrom needs to make it farther. So I would hope. And I honestly think he'd be a good fit. I think they have something to prove this season. If he goes there and the Mets fall short again, then you are absolutely right. And the Mets have just been the Mets this season. So we'll see what happens with that one. Now, another free agent I want to talk about is Jackie Bradley Jr., center fielder. Alex, where do you think he goes? Do you think he stays with the Red Sox or he leaves?
I thought he was going to go to the Mets. The Mets needed a center fielder because Brendan Nimmo can hit, but he can't really play defense. And then they signed Almaro Jr. from the Cubs to play center field. So he's not going there. I think there's only really 2 teams that can sign him now, and that's the Red Sox and the Astros. The Astros re-signed Brantley, but they lost Springer, and Springer played center. So I could see him going there, but I think the more logical decision is him going back to Boston. even though Boston is in mid rebuild and they're not looking to be good this season, that's really the only place for him.
Yeah, I don't think the Astros necessarily need him, and I think the Red Sox, like you said, they're in a rebuild, but that's something that they could honestly use him. They have Kike and they have Ottavino, so I think they're working on getting back. I don't think they're going to be a contender for a while, pretty much. But I think if they start building the team now and keep Jackie, I think that'd be a smart move for them for sure.
I 100% agree. I don't see him wearing orange and blue within this next season. I think he'll stay in his red and white.
Yes, absolutely. Now, do either of you have any other ones that you're super excited about? Where do you think they're going to go? Any bold predictions?
I'm going to say the Yankees are going to get Trevor Rosenthal to bolster their bullpen. I have no reason to believe that. The Yankees don't have a lot of money to spend, but I think they'll find a way to get it done, make a trade somewhere to free up some cap space, maybe trade another reliever. They traded Ottavino to Boston in a salary dump. We basically traded him to Boston for nothing. So they're going to try to free up salary, get another reliever, and I think that's going to be Trevor Rosenthal.
I think so. I was
also.
Oh, sorry. I think the Yankees have a lot of money that they need to figure out before they add anyone, like you said. So if they can do that, I think they'll take him. But honestly, I don't know about that one. I just don't know if they're gonna be able to make the moves they need to clear up that salary space.
Yeah, the Yankees are trying to steer clear of the luxury tax with how much they're paying everyone as far as salaries go. So I think Rosenthal is going to go to the Phillies. That's looking like his best fit right now. Recently, he had Tommy John surgery in 2018, and he's proved to be a ninth inning reliever where he comes out strong and he makes the plays to help seal a game for his team. So I can definitely see him with the Phillies, who could use them to continue to be a great team. And I think he would be good working with Bryce Harper as well.
I could agree with that. I mean, again, it's up for grabs and it's still time to tell, but I do think the Phillies are a team that need it. I don't know if that's the move they go for right now, but again, they're not a team that's also disappointed, so they have to build pretty much everywhere around them. So
They will take any bullpen help they can get.
Yes.
If you're watching this and you can throw a baseball, you can go pitch in the Phillies bullpen.
Yeah, so. they're gonna take little leaguers at this point. So
anything.
Well, another thing I want to talk about that just came out today is the new rules going into the baseball season, and what was expected is that the National League will no longer have a designated hitter. Now, that is something that I personally disagree with. I think it makes baseball a little more interesting when we can watch real hitters hit and not have to sit through pitchers who cannot hit a ball. Ohtani may be the only one that's actually interesting to watch hit the ball. So I was pretty disappointed in that. And Alex, I want to know what you think about that decision. I
was disappointed as well. I like the 7-inning doubleheader idea that they're keeping. I like starting extra innings with a runner on second. I really wanted to see expanded playoffs again. I know not a lot of people like that, but I wanted to see it again, and we're not going to get that. And no DH. And like you said, it's kind of boring watching pitchers hit. Like, I'd rather watch Ohtani or a designated hitter. Like, give me Nelson Cruz in the NL. Or Ozuna was so good last year with the Braves because he was a DH. Ozuna's not a good fielder, and now he's going to have to play left field. And that's going to be a trouble spot for the Braves because he cannot play defense. So I'm hoping if we do have a 2022 season, because the CBA is up, so we're probably going to have a strike. But if we do have a 2022 season, I hope they bring the DH back, but I don't think they will. I think the owners like the tradition of the National League and having the pitchers hit.
I think that's something too that, like you said, they like the tradition. That's something that they're so hell bent on in baseball, is keeping tradition. And I think you're losing a younger audience by doing that. People loved watching the DH last year. They loved making it new. And I think, all our sports, the NFL, the NBA, they're constantly changing with the times. They're constantly making things new, making improvements. And baseball is really stuck on making it tradition. And I love tradition. I think, keep some things, but make it a little more interesting, bring people back to baseball. I'm tired of my friends always being like, you watch baseball, it's so boring. Make it exciting again. I think I think there's time.
Baseball, yeah, no, baseball hates change, and like I don't know why. You claim, like Rob Manfred, the commissioner, he claims that the sport is boring. So stop making changes that make the sport more boring.
Yes.
Like make it more fun. Give us a DH. Like
Mhm.
give us 7-inning doubleheaders like every Sunday. Like and like the NFL did with the playoffs this year, they put a game on Nickelodeon. They advertised to kids.
Yes.
Baseball should be doing that, but they're not, and that's why they can't get kids involved in the game because you're not advertising the kids. Mike Trout is arguably the greatest player of all time, and your average sports fan has no idea who Mike Trout is.
Thanks.
Like that's a problem. This is our sports Michael Jordan, and normal people don't know who he is.
No
That's
idea.
an issue.
I remember I was playing a trivia game. This was like a year ago, and a picture of Bryce Harper came up. And my friend, who big football guy, big NBA guy, knows a lot of sports. He's like, "Who is this?" I was like, "You don't know who Bryce Harper is? Like, how do you not know?" And it's
Yeah.
baseball's a dead sport these days.
Yeah.
They don't advertise themselves the way they need to bring an audience in.
Yeah, the most memorable or the most recognizable baseball player right now is probably Aaron Judge, and it's not because he's a baseball player, it's because he's a monster. It's because he's huge. Like it should be your Mike Trouts, your Bryce Harpers, your Tatises, your Mookie Betts, but it's not. It's Aaron Judge, and that's only because he's 6'8".
Yeah.
Yes.
That, and he had his Jersey Mike steal for a little bit there.
Yeah, that too.
You saw him a little more everywhere. But yeah, no, I saw it today, and I was like, oh, another one bites the dust. I mean, I expect nothing less from Rob Manfred from baseball. You know, they would shock me if they did the thing I want them to do, basically, at this point.
If baseball gets something right, I think I would throw a party.
Yeah. I'd be right there with you.
It's so frustrating because, like you said, it's a dying sport, and it's my favorite sport, so I hate seeing it. Like, I want kids to like baseball again because, like, growing up, we all like baseball growing up, and we all played baseball growing up, and now it's dying. It sucks.
Exactly. I remember growing up going to Marlins game back then it was Landshark Stadium in Miami. So I just grew up loving the sport, and it's so sad that there's not that same passion as there was, once long ago. So I think, again, they would need to get something back in, and hopefully, again, if there is a 2022 season, they make those changes. Maybe they make it throughout this season. I want to see people back to baseball, and I think it's been really hard, especially with COVID, getting those people to watch because, if people weren't so interested, they'd go to baseball games because it's a fun thing to do. Well, you couldn't do that last season. So sure as heck no one's watching it on TV because why would they, and I think it's so sad, and I want people to watch it again. I love watching it. I love the thrill of it, and I love everything about it. But we'll see what happens in the future of baseball. Hopefully some changes can be made soon. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us. It was great talking to you. And Hannah, thank you as always.
Of course.
Well, when we come back next week, we'll be talking more sports, hopefully some more MLB moves. And if not, we'll get back to you then. See you next week.